All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to do something pretty cool. We're going to decode a hidden operating system, a kind of secret code that runs not just the entire universe, but believe it or not, your life too. Let's dive right in. So let me just start with a question. What could dark matter, the internet, and your daily habits possibly have in common? I know, it sounds like a weird riddle, doesn't it? You've got this mysterious stuff holding entire galaxies together. Then this global network connecting all of us. And then, the little things you do every single day without even thinking about it. Well, it turns out they are connected by one single, incredibly powerful and totally invisible principle. Okay, to really get this, we gotta zoom way out. I mean, cosmic perspective. And when you do, you find something that is just mind-blowing. Only 5% of our entire universe is made of normal matter. The stuff we can actually see and touch. The other 95%, it's completely invisible. And yet, that's the stuff that's actually in charge. It's the force shaping everything. This means most of reality is literally hidden in plain sight. Now here's where it gets really wild. Long before we had telescopes or any way to measure all this invisible stuff, some ancient thinkers, they already had a name for it. They had a name for this invisible engine, for this, operating system of reality itself. And the way they described it is it's shockingly accurate, even by today's standards. The first thing they said about it was, you can look, but can't see it. Now, does that ring a bell? I mean, that is a perfect, and I mean perfect, description of dark matter. Right? The invisible scaffolding that holds our entire galaxy together. Okay, so what was the next part of their description? Listen, but can't hear it. And again, think about it. That's a spot-on parallel for something like gravity waves. These silent ripples in space-time that are powerful enough to move planets, but you can't hear a thing. Totally silent, yet immensely powerful. And the final piece of the puzzle? They said grasp, but can't touch it. This points straight to the world of quantum fields, this invisible energy matrix where literally everything, all particles, all of reality, just pops into existence. You can't hold it in your hand, but it's the foundation of everything you can hold. So what did the ancients call this invisible engine? They called it the Tao. But it's absolutely crucial to get this next part right. The Tao isn't some, mystical thing. That's not what we're talking about. The best way to think of it is like source code. It's the fundamental, invisible operating system that's running the entire universe. Okay, so if we're thinking of the Tao as an OS, what are its main features? What are its core properties? Well, we can actually get a pretty good handle on them by using some very modern everyday analogies. All right, first up, it's beyond duality. The ancient description is not bright above, not dark below. So what does that mean? Well, think about electricity. Is electricity good or bad? No, of course not. It's just a neutral force, right? It can power a hospital and save lives, or it can be used for something destructive. The power isn't good or bad, it's all about how it's used. Second property, it's unnameable and boundless. Here's a great way to wrap your head around this: the internet. Seriously, where is the internet? Can you point to it? Does it have a physical address? Nope. It's this massive, intangible, but very, very real system. The Tao is a lot like that. It's this endless fabric you can't really put a single label on. And number 3, it has what's called a formless form. And honestly, my favorite analogy for this has to be Wi-Fi. It's just perfect. You have these completely invisible waves floating all around you, right? But they produce very, very visible results, like the messages on your phone or the videos you stream. That's the Tao in action, an unseen pattern creating the world we all see. Okay, so this is all really fascinating theory, right? Cosmic stuff, ancient wisdom, but this next part is where the rubber meets the road. This is where it gets incredibly practical. There's a key line from this ancient wisdom that says, apply ancient principles to master modern challenges. And that is the pivot point for us. This is where we go from just understanding the universe's OS to actually using it. So, the big question is, how do we do that? How on earth does an ancient code help us solve the very real, very modern problems we all face every single day, at work and in our personal lives? Well, it actually breaks down beautifully when you start looking at modern experts. So take a principle like embracing uncertainty. What does a savvy investor do? They diversify their portfolio, right? They're embracing that uncertainty. Or what about focusing on the fundamentals? A great engineer doesn't just try to build a machine that looks like a bird. No, they master the underlying invisible laws of aerodynamics. And what about working with hidden systems? Think about modern medicine. Doctors are now treating the invisible microbiome in our gut to fix all sorts of problems. You see? In their own ways, they are all working with the Tao. And that brings us to the most important part of all of this. How can you start mastering the invisible world that's all around you? Let's get really actionable here. Okay, let's break it down. Number 1, in leadership, stop chasing the latest shiny trend. Instead, study the fundamentals, the deep patterns of human nature. Number 2, in problem solving, don't just put a band-aid on the symptom. You've got to map out the invisible systems like office politics or supply chain dynamics to find the actual root cause. And number 3, in your own personal growth, start cultivating what we can call dark matter habits. These are the small, almost invisible daily actions, like writing just 500 words or meditating for 5 minutes, that don't seem like much, but over time, they produce massive, visible results. Want a real-world example? Look at Netflix. They didn't become who they are by copying Blockbuster or chasing some business fad. Their legendary culture code, it's built on a deep, fundamental understanding of human psychology. That's the ancient code of what makes people tick. They didn't hack business. They hacked the invisible system of human motivation. Or how about Warren Buffett? The guy dominates 21st century markets. How? By using simple, almost old-fashioned, 19th century principles of value investing. He completely ignores all the noisy, visible chatter of the market, the day-to-day panic and hype, and he just focuses on the timeless, invisible fundamentals of a business's real value. You could say he is a master of the Tao of investing. So this all really comes down to one hugely powerful idea, and it's captured perfectly in this quote. So what does that mean for you and me? It means that pattern recognition, that is the true superpower. The ability to see the timeless, recurring patterns, whether it's in nature, in business, or even in your own behavior, that is how you master the code. So look, if you only take one single thing away from our time together today, please let it be this. Stop chasing the visible hacks. Stop looking for the quick fix. True mastery in literally any field doesn't come from that. It comes from understanding the invisible fundamentals, the timeless principles that govern how things really work. And that brings me to one final question. And this one is just for you to think about. When you look at your own life, your career, your health, your relationships, what is the single most important invisible system in your life that you could start mastering starting today?